The best improvement to Procreate Dreams 2, which you can see before you even open the app, is right here, the logo. And I'm only partially joking. The old logo was so similar to the regular Procreate logo that it took me a second or two to remember which was which every time I wanted to use either of the two apps. But let's dive in. And this is such a massive change, so much so that I'd hazard to guess that the developers basically rewrote the app from scratch, or close to it. There's no more weird infinite canvas, million plus pixel nonsense, which was the culprit for many of these seemingly unfixable issues. Strange brush and line behavior, inability to fill shapes well, lack of transform tools, and so forth. The canvas is now a set size, usually ranging between 8 and 16K depending upon your iPad specs. This is fine and was obviously a needed change to bring everything else into line. So let's start with the positives. Brush behavior and feel is now identical to regular Procreate. This is a very good thing. You can actually draw in Procreate Dreams now with the same technique as Procreate, eliminating a lot of switching back and forth between the two apps. I still think it's a cleaner workflow to paint your backgrounds in Procreate and then drag them over to Dreams, but it's at least plausible now to imagine someone moving their entire workflow into Dreams. Most importantly, gone is the unacceptable behavior in which your brush would change its appearance based on how zoomed in you were to your canvas. And this was insane in Dreams 1, so I am more than happy to see that it's now fixed. Thank goodness. And really, the entire drawing experience is just plain fixed. Filling shapes no longer leaves distracting gaps between the line and fill color. You can continue filling once you start, meaning you don't have to drag the same color from the upper right-hand corner hundreds or thousands of times. My wrist really thanks you, Procreate team. Like, seriously. And before we get too far along, I have to mention the inclusion of the lasso tool for transforming your drawings. And this is especially important for me in the sketching phase, where I am doing roughs for my keyframes. To be able to select part of a drawing and transform it on one layer, like you could do with basically every drawing app since the invention of Photoshop, is such a relief. It can't be overstated how necessary this is for digital animation. Drawing layers now behave much like you'd expect, with the ability to merge and rearrange layers, as simple as it is in Procreate. Really, the whole layer management system feels less janky. Everything is smoother and more responsive, and importantly, more predictable. I'm actually impressed with the level of polish across the app. Video playback is smoother with fewer dropped frames or missing layers as you play back complex animations. There's no lag or delay on my iPad Pro M4. Even the gallery showing all your animations, now called the theater, is smoother with the ability to drag and reorder your animations, now thankfully present. Another small but important change for me, because I tend to do things out of order and I like to kind of keep things in a different order that I create them in. Other behaviors like selecting multiple frames and then dragging them along the timeline now perform like you'd expect. UX intuition now lines up pretty much a lot more closely with the actual app's behavior, creating far fewer idiosyncratic moments where you feel you should be able to do something, but find the app responds in unexpected ways. Overall, this is a very good thing. Also positive is the inclusion of more export options, including to GIFs and other popular formats. From here, things get a bit more complicated, and I have a feeling that opinions will be mixed depending upon how you use the app. And I see lots of improvements here for those who use Dreams for creating motion graphics, while improvements for frame-by-frame animators are a bit more iffy. In particular, the team had a complete rethink of how the flipbook works. In version 1, there wasn't much difference between flipbook mode and regular mode, aside from getting more canvas visible in flipbook mode. Now, you almost have to be in flipbook mode to animate frame by frame, period. And technically, you can still create frames as drawings in the normal view, But these drawings span the length of your timeline by default, making them more suited to backgrounds, not the individual frames for your animations. Before diving in further, it's important to note that the old Procreate files will need to be converted to be able to be opened and worked on in Dreams 2. In particular, frame-by-frame sequences will need to be converted into flipbook sequences in order for you to work on them effectively, with somewhat mixed results. Some of your drawings might need to be cropped, a process you can allow Dreams to handle automatically, while depending upon how you use masking layers, for example, you might lose those during the conversion and need to redo them. And I understand the challenges here, and I think the team did the best they could, but it's just not entirely seamless. So let's see what the flipbook has to offer. And when you create a flipbook on a track, you're now essentially creating an opaque grouping of frame-by-frame tracks that all live within the flipbook. In other words, you can't see the individual elements of a flipbook from the traditional Dreams view, like the timeline view. You have to dive into the flipbook mode to see and edit what lives inside. You can convert a flipbook back into a regular track view, but that's hardly useful. Honestly, it's a bit frustrating as it can make adding some effects to your drawings more challenging. Let's look at a concrete example. If you want to duplicate an animated track and then apply a blur effect, you have to separate that out into another track, like outside the flipbook, before applying the blur effect. It adds a few extra steps to something that used to be quite simple. Inside the flipbook, you'll probably notice right away that the interface is slightly more similar to like a traditional animation app, maybe like Harmony, Toon Boom, for example, except it's still far simpler for better or worse, depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. You now have all your animation tracks visible within the flipbook. There's more flexibility when it comes to extending individual frames, reordering frames, even dragging multiple frames at once, which you couldn't do previously. And you can still change the blend mode of a track and turn it into like a masking track, for example, but as far as I can tell, you can no longer apply effects to the track in the flipbook mode. You can apply a blur filter, as an example, only to individual frames, even when multiple frames are selected. I hope there's a way to accomplish this that I'm just not seeing, but I was unable to find anything in Procreate's documentation to address this case. So let's say you wanted to duplicate a track, put it behind the original track, and blur it to create a sort of glow effect around a character. You can't do this without converting the flipbook grouping into tracks and then doing it from here, at which point you've lost your flipbook. You can convert the tracks back into a flipbook, but they might lose some of your settings like masking layers and blend modes. Not ideal, I'd say, and this is a case in which the older version of Dreams was actually simpler to use. But that's always the struggle with interface design, isn't it? And the more features you add, the harder it becomes to preserve simplicity. There are always going to be compromises, and I think things like this will be worked out over time. Now the team has seemingly solved the underlying tech stack issues that were preventing them from rolling out additional features in the first place. Overall, Dreams 2 is an important step, mostly forward, sometimes sideways, and rarely backwards. Dreams 1.0 never quite felt like a true version 1, often come across as more of a beta with lots of ideas not fully thought through, many interface issues, and tons of usability mistakes. And 2.0 costs nothing if you've already purchased the app. It's a free upgrade, and in a world of microtransactions and subscription products, that in itself should be honored and honestly respected. Now that the developers have a good base, I hope to see them add even more features. A big one would be automatic iCloud backup. I don't like having to remember to manually back up my work, so automating the process would be amazing. It seems a lot of people are hoping for rigging, which works well with vector-based animation. That's not really my thing, and I have a hard time seeing how the Dreams team would add it without majorly cluttering up the app, but we'll see. I'll have more thoughts on the app as I use it, so thanks for watching and subscribe if you'd like. And I'll leave you with a clip I just finished working on for my animated show, The Other Side of Gold, which I made in Dreams 1. And we'll see what else I can accomplish in Dreams 2.
I am Privet, War Master of this tree. Friends have already told stories of me, no doubt. They're all true. My words are your sacred covenant. So believe me when I say that playtime is over. Now then, let's see what pathetic filth the king has given me this year. One by one, you will lift each of these stones until your ethereal hand fails. Begin.
Huh. Easy.
Stop dancing, boy, and lift the stone.
No one's ever lifted the fourth stone.
Well done. It's been many years since any trainee has shifted that rock. What's your name, boy?
Aster, sir.
Well, Aster, you have the strongest ethereal hand I've seen in many years from someone your age. But don't take that as permission to cripple the other boys. That's my job.
I won't.
Good. Now back in line. Next.
That's you. Just relax and do your best. Robinson and I, we've got your back. Isn't that right, Rob?
What? Oh, yeah, sure. Go get him, little guy. 2 at once? Incredible.
I can't believe it.
Did you see that? He lifted both.
Boy, why did you stop?
I couldn't lift the next stone.
That's the first and last lie you'll ever tell me. Return to the stones and unleash the full power of your ethereal hand.
Show them what we can do.